Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and happy Halloween. It's Halloween today and it's like 6 o'clock, so if you hear the doorbell ring or a knock, it's probably just trick-or-treaters and I don't have any candy. Alright, so this is kind of an update or part 2 to a video I put out over the summer that I kind of put out on a whim and I did not expect it to get that much traction that it has got. So I'm taking it upon myself to give you guys that are potentially leaving California or anywhere really, or thinking about relocating to Virginia, some pros and cons. This isn't a video saying, hey, if you live here, it's trash, you need to leave, or saying, hey, you need to move here because it's amazing. It's just a tool to help you guys with your decision, what you're trying to do. Now, keep in mind, I was born and raised in Northern Virginia, right outside of DC. I've lived all over. Now I'm back in Virginia, but I live down in Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach area. I know, Virginia is not my favorite state. My favorite state I've been to is probably Tennessee, followed by Arizona. And I might do a video on those in the future if you guys like this. I don't know. So I'm gonna go over a list of cons, and then a list of pros, and then kind of like a final conclusion. It's like killing me. It's like cold today. My nose is all messed up. My eyes are all running. It is what it is. So we'll go ahead and dive right into it. First con about living in Virginia. Taxes here are a little high. They're not astronomical, but they're not cheap either. Mainly the income tax. Income tax here is roughly 5%. For reference, California is close to 12.5%, I think. But California is on the extreme spectrum. Virginia is kind of in the middle, but a little bit above average. Just be cognizant of that. There are cheaper states to live in with less of a tax burden, but taxes here aren't really that taxing. But they are something to think about. Now, a lot of these, both pros and cons, really depends on where you are in the state. So for the next one, traffic. Now, Hampton Roads does have traffic. It's nowhere like DC, New York City, California, Southern California traffic, but there is traffic here where I live, but it pales in comparison to a much larger city. Richmond has some traffic, it's not terrible. I will say up around the Beltway, Northern Virginia, traffic's pretty bad. It moves, but it's pretty bad. The infrastructure is better than California, but there's just so much people, you know. They do have a proper beltway that connects all the outer arteries to the suburbs and stuff. And there's a decent metro system in place. Metro is like a subway in DC. And that alleviates a lot of traffic. And that is sprawling out further in that area to help alleviate a lot of the congestion in Northern Virginia. But traffic is still bad. People are moving in quicker than they can, revamp the infrastructure, if you will. Traffic is something to think about. Not terrible, but it is a thing. This next one's kind of silly, and I thought someone was messing with me before I moved to Virginia Beach. And actually, I think they just did away with this, but I'll leave it in because it's kind of funny. Virginia Beach, you can be fined, I think, $200 or $300 if a cop so wishes to cite you for swearing in public. Down on the boardwalk, there's these little signs that pretty much it's like profanity and it's crossed out. I'll include a picture here. So yeah, they're kind of strict on that. I've never seen it enforced. I don't know if it's ever been enforced, but it's kind of funny that I guess it's on the books that you can't curse at the ocean front in Virginia Beach. So watch your mouths. Next is the weather, and this is also a pro as well, but I'll go over the not so fun part of it first. Weather in Virginia, I don't care what part you're in, is super unpredictable, or especially in the spring and fall. It can have a dramatic swing of 35 degrees overnight. You will have low pressure systems come out of nowhere, hurricanes shooting across the state real quick. It's hard to predict weather with the mountains, the Blue Ridge there, especially snow. I remember growing up as a kid around DC, they would call for 3 inches, you wake up, there's a foot. Sometimes they would call for, 18 inches, you wake up and it's rain. And as a kid, I was like, oh man, that's really detrimental, really disappointing. Weather here can be tricky, so I'll leave the weather at that for now, and I'll come back to it on the pro side shortly. Next is cost of living, and this one's also a pro, I'll get to you later. But depending on where you live, it can be pricey. Virginia Beach, the city of Virginia Beach can be pricey. Anywhere near DC and 40 miles in any direction on the Virginia side is pretty expensive, probably 3 times as much as it is here in Hampton Roads. Rural Virginia, off 81 corridor, anywhere off 64, Charlottesville, I think, is very affordable. Yeah, you just have to be cognizant of your cost of living and it's not like California where everything's just expensive. Here, there's like pockets of really, really affordable to really, really high end, and a lot of in between. There's not really a set formula to know. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. But there are some bargains to be had in Virginia, especially if you're gonna retire and you have the capital to do it. You can get an awesome house, kind of not in the sticks, but more rural country, if you will. In and around DC, I wouldn't say it's as expensive as like LA or San Francisco, but it's pricey, so be aware of that. Next, marijuana, pot, 420, weed is not legal yet in Virginia. They did introduce medical marijuana recently, so I think it's a matter of time before Virginia catches up. Virginia is always kind of slow at introducing progressive type things to an extent. Legislation here is very slow, but that's most legislation. So just be aware of that if you're an avid smoker coming here. Legally, you can't do it yet, so just be aware of that. But in DC, it's legal, and if you live in Virginia, you can't just drive, in DC and get it. A lot of people do that. Lastly, for my cons, state troopers here are very strict. All business, all the time. If you get pulled over by a state trooper, you're gonna get a ticket. They don't really give out warnings. Traffic laws here, they take very seriously. If you're doing 80 or over and the limit's 70, you're gonna get cited for reckless driving. And that, if I'm not mistaken, is a criminal offense at that point. Be cognizant of that, and Virginia is the only state that does not allow radar detectors. They are outlawed in Virginia, and they take that very seriously. And they have radar detectors, but you can buy a radar detector. And I think there's even a radar detectors. I'm not kidding. So it's a constant cat and mouse game between people like the street race with radar detectors and cops with them. And a lot of times if a cop sees you on radar, if they put the gun right on you, the radar gun that is, and see you immediately slow down, it's kind of like a red flag to them that you have radar detector, because you're able to see or hear that you're being detected. I know it's convoluted and stupid. And why Virginia is so strict on it, I don't know. It's so stupid. But yeah, you can't have radar detectors in Virginia. All right, so the pros, the good stuff. Healthcare. Healthcare in Virginia is very good. They have some of the best, if not the best, hospitals in the country, in the state. Very good hospitals. Yeah, I think like 25% of the hospitals here meet excellent conditions on the U.S. Bureau of Hospital, whatever, I don't know what it is, but good hospitals here. Next, education. Education is very good in Virginia. Grade school to high school, community colleges are actually very, very good. To state level universities, awesome programs, awesome schools, very highly rated. Where I grew up in Loudoun County, the schools are always very good. The schools in Hampton Roads are more sketchy, but not bad. Yeah, so Virginia is definitely on the high end of education priority, which I like that, which is nice. All right, cost of living. This was a con, but it's also a pro. If you're smart and do your homework, you can find nice areas that are very affordable. For instance, my house here, I bought this 8 years ago for about $150. I'll insert a little clip here so you can see kind of where I live. All right, here we are, just for a reference, if you will. So I live pretty much on the water. My house is right there. I'll walk over there in a second. Most of my neighbors have piers and boats. It's pretty nice. So depending on where you live in Virginia, your money can go really far. Like I said, I'm on the water practically. Yeah, it's right there. 100 yards away maybe. So yeah, I mean, by no means are we rich. We have a 4-bedroom house, garage. We have 4 cars. We don't need 4 cars, but we do. Super cute little neighborhood. So yeah, sub 200 on the water. You can get a 4-bedroom if you play your cards right. I did a little bit of work to the house myself. Yeah, this is Portsmouth, Virginia. If you do a little bit of homework and digging, you can get a good deal on a property that's a lot less than the national average in a very good neighborhood. Now, the house you just saw, my house, in Northern Virginia would probably be 2.5 or 3 times as much, probably close to 5, given the proximity to water, 500 or 600. This in SoCal, with the amount of land, the corner lot I'm on, the LA County, you're looking at 900K for a reference if you're not familiar with real estate cost. So cost of living can be very good if you're smart about where you live in Virginia. Crime rate. Crime rate in Virginia is very low among the national average. Now where I live in Portsmouth, which is one of the worst cities in Virginia to live for crime. I feel very safe here. There's a couple parts of this area, this city I live in, that I wouldn't want to hang around in past midnight, but by no means is this a Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis situation. I think on average Hampton Roads per year total averages maybe 15-20 homicides. You'll do that in Chicago on a weekend. Yeah, Virginia, especially Northern Virginia, Charlottesville. Richmond's a little sketch, but it's all relevant, and even that's not terrible. But there is crime here, but nothing national newsworthy typically. Job opportunities. Our economy is very good here. There's a lot of federal jobs to be had between here, DC, Richmond area. Obviously DC area is a lot of federal jobs because all branches of government you can work out of or work for in some capacity. I live down here in Hampton Roads, which is a very large military town. I think we have 13 different military bases in just this 7 cities area. There's a lot. So if you have a military clearance in any capacity, with you're hireable, chances are you can land a pretty good job here in the Department of Defense field, which is what I do. And yeah, the economy is very well. It's very good. No shortage of jobs, which is nice. And I think our unemployment rate for Virginia, I think this is pre-COVID, but it was like 3%. It's very low, very low. But even now, because there's so much federal jobs here, COVID has not really taken its toll on the area, which is nice. Politics in Virginia. Virginia is very strange. It's a purple state. You have a lot of pockets of red and a lot of pockets of blue. Where I live in Hampton Roads, it's very brackish. There's lots of both. If you go into a rural area of Virginia, it's very red. I think 96% of the counties in Virginia are red. There's a handful, less than that determine the state's color, red or blue. Like Fairfax and right outside of Richmond. It's so densely populated, so that carries a lot of weight. So typically Virginia's blue, but majority of the state's red. I know it's confusing. Yeah, very moderate politics here. So no real extremes on either end. It's a good mix. That can be a pro or a con depending how you look at it. The geography of Virginia. It's a gorgeous state. It really is very, very pretty. You got beaches here are nice. Virginia Beach isn't the nicest beach you've been to, but it's nice. If you're in a pinch, you need to get a little vacation time in, yeah, come down to Virginia Beach. It's not too bad. All the Chesapeake Bay is nice area. There's like 250 miles of coastline in Virginia, so there's a lot of coastline, a lot of fishing. If you like fishing, Virginia's pretty good for salt and freshwater fishing. The mountains here are gorgeous. Through north of Richmond on 64, 81 from Tennessee all the way up to Maryland is so pretty, especially this time of year. Gorgeous. And there's lots of cities, lots of urban life as well. Fairfax, Richmond, and even here there's a lot of city. I live on the very, very outskirts of Old Town, Portsmouth. I'm pretty much in Old Town. It's walking distance, but it's historic, so I like that. But yeah, Virginia is gorgeous. Not the prettiest state. I think the prettiest state I've been to is Tennessee. Eastern Tennessee, more specifically. It's got every type of scenery you would want, short of a desert. And lastly, weather. I think this was a con as well. But you have a perfect division of all 4 seasons. And in the spring and fall, you rarely have to use your HVAC, your heat. It's pretty temperate. Today's 31st October, and it's like the first chilly day we've had. It's like 55 degrees high. But the last month and a half, it's been like 75 to 80 every day. It's been really nice. It does get cold in the winter. Depending where you are, you'll get more snow. Northern Virginia, the mountains, you'll get a decent amount of snow. But here in Tidewater, Hampton Roads, you might see a decent snow every few years. But yeah, weather, seasons are very predictable. The weather day to day, not so much. But if you like the idea of having all 4 seasons to their totality, Virginia is like the pinnacle. So in conclusion, boys and girls, you have beaches, you have city, you have mountains, all within a day drive. Virginia is super historic between Williamsburg, Jamestown, DC, right next to Virginia, obviously. A lot of historic neighborhoods to be found. Arlington, Hampton Roads, Portsmouth. If you like history, there's no shortage of things to do history-wise and look at, and it just looks old. The state looks old, not in a bad way. It just looks really. The architecture is really neat. There's lots of Gothic churches, especially where I live. Lots of old Gothic churches, which I love. I think it's really, really cool. Yeah, I love the architecture. Taxes, there's taxes, but they're not too taxing, like I said. Economy and jobs here, very strong. Politically very diverse. Cost of living is very affordable, assuming you do your homework. Oh, and the price of gas here is relatively low. I think yesterday I filled up for like $1.85 a gallon, so it's not terrible. Not the best, but not bad. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick little summary of pros and cons of living in Virginia. And if you guys like this, I might do one on Tennessee. I love Tennessee. Tennessee is so pretty. Until next time, guys, stay classy.